Welcome back. This is the Diggy Lips channel and a little bit of a different video today, but I'm gonna go over what I read this last year in 2024. Set out a goal and just gonna go book by book. Hope you enjoy it. Alright, getting started with a recap of what I read in 2024. So I set out a goal to read 12 books, so just one book a month, totally doable. Nothing too hard. Just wanted to read because I have so many books that I've bought but I haven't read or even cracked them open. Or if I did, I read like half a chapter, then just set it down and said, oh, I'll get to it later. But this year I really wanted to get into reading more, and I don't know, just really to be able to flex that, still have that capacity to seek knowledge, gain knowledge, and if nothing more, just slow down the mind and read an entertaining story. So starting off the list is Atomic Habits. Is the first book I read by James Clear. It's a really good way to just get started, and if you're kind of wanting to break a bad habit or start a new habit, and has a good framework and has a bunch of online resources, and just a great book overall to read. It helped me get started, like also just starting to work out more and being more consistent in that space. The second book I read, I think, is The Midnight Library, and I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, like Modern Wisdom. Anyways, Chris Williamson, I was listening to his podcast and he recommended this. And it's a real nice story, The Midnight Library. It's like kind of hopeful message at the end of the book, but it's pretty much just a story about a British woman who is in between life and death, and then she wakes up into this midnight library. She cracks open a book and she just gets transported into that life, and it's like a alternate reality of what her life could have come out to be. A hopeful message, short, fun read. And moving on, so I kind of did this pattern of reading nonfiction and then a fiction book, so kind of like informational stuff like Atomic Habits, and then kind of just a novel like Midnight Library, just something to be entertained by. And then here, Outlive: The Science and Art of Longevity by Peter Attia. Been listening to his podcast a lot, The Drive. He's got great stuff on like longevity, zone 2 training, the prioritizing muscle building and like maintaining uh muscle and strength and stability into your later years for that what he calls this uh centenarian decathlon. Yeah, so it's like things that you want to do in your marginal decade, which is like that last decade of your life. That's probably, you want to be high functioning as possible, and then high functioning to a certain degree where you can still enjoy some hobbies or just like simple stuff like, I don't know, being able to get up off the floor by yourself, playing with your grandchildren and lifting them, from a crib, from the floor, getting up and down the floor. I don't know if you're into some sport like cycling, running, still at that age. And it's all kinds of really dirty stuff if you're into like longevity or just health or stuff like that. But anyways, this next one is a weird, I don't know, book. Colorless Tsukuru Tazaki, His Years of Pilgrimage. It's about this Japanese young man who gets abandoned by his 4 best friends during like high school year out of the blue, and he kind of just accepts it. And I remember this book. It's kind of like a reread, but kind of like a first time read, because I remember in one of my classes back in the day in college was it Humanities East and West, I think. But I remember this was assigned to read, and I remember checking out the book, and I think I cracked open and I read maybe like a chapter or two, and then I just cliff note the rest of it. and then just had to write a shitty essay about it, like what are the main themes about this stuff. But now it was a really good read. We got this great series. I don't know, probably heard about it, but again, Modern Wisdom, Chris Williamson, he mentioned it in the podcast, saying that he's gotten every time he's recommended this, he's like 100% hit rate, and definitely 100% hit rate with me. But Red Rising by Pierce Brown, a great story, like dystopian future about this hierarchy, and how like the golds are at the top, the reds that are at the very bottom that kind of just do manual labor and are just really have short lives and are just grinding for this eventual future, but really they're just kind of slaves. And then yeah, all kinds of stuff, really interesting. Continuing on, Golden Sun, just continuing from the story from where we left off. You get to know more of how the golds work, how the hierarchy works. The story just continues pretty much. So yeah, not much to say. And just continuing on, reading Morning Star now. This is the third book, and a grand conclusion. But it's a great read. The series so far. This other book I just wanted to mention, The Bad Beginning. It's like a reread. It's like young adult fiction. I remember reading these series, and for some reason I really enjoyed it. I remember reading this in like 4th grade or 5th grade. The odd thing is that I just recently bought all the books, the whole series. I remember back in the day, like I read every single one, was obsessed with it. And then for some odd reason, I lost interest like right at book either 12, and I didn't even start the last one, the conclusion, which was so odd. I was just like, yeah, I'm done with it. Half Man, Half Bike. The life of Eddie Merckx. So the reason I got into this, again, Peter Attia, and a little bit about Netflix, Tour de France, Unchained, or I always mess up the name, Unchained Tour de France, but it was like pretty much a documentary series, kind of like F1, Drive to Survive, but for the Tour de France. So you kind of follow different teams, follow different key athletes, and then follow the storyline of the tour, who's in place, who's in contention to win a stage and all that. And it was just real interesting sport, and I thought, why not give it a try? Read something about cycling, and always like sports because lifting and stuff, and football and what have you back in the day. Grit. So this is I don't know, because I listened to this audiobook a while ago, like a long time ago. I think it was like either like right when it got released. There was like a promotion. Some website was like saying it wasn't Audible. I know it wasn't that. It was some other website that was just promoting stuff, and it somehow crossed my mind, and I was like, huh, Grit. That's interesting. I remember like listening to the whole audiobook, and I was like, wow, that's really cool. Grit. So you gotta like and it was like this interesting explanation of how grit isn't about just working hard. It's about like sustained effort over a long period of time. Not just like, if you start a business and you grind for 2-3 years, it's like, all right, that's cool. But when you're really passionate about something, it's like it's part of your identity. Oh, Move by Move, which was a really short book, kind of by Maurice Ashley, a grandmaster. I think he was the first African American grandmaster. Yeah, but anyways, he wrote a book about chess and how it relates to like his life and how it's still applicable to like situations, and then how it helped him navigate his struggles in life and stuff, and how athletes, and he just kind of weaves in these metaphors and what have you. We have Left to Wander, which you guarantee you've probably never heard of. It was It's a novel by a coworker that I work with, and he said that he wrote one. So I was like, all right, cool. I have this real bad tendency where when someone recommends something or I listen to something about a book or what have you, I tend to go and buy it right away and then start that. So for the beginning of the year, I was pretty consistent in like starting a book and being like really, really strict about finishing it before moving on. But then towards the end of the year, I was like, yeah, kind of more like relaxed about it. Don't really care. But Left to Wander, uh, is a is an okay story, but the ending was kind of rushed and the beginning was kind of meandering. But yeah, won't say too much else. But yeah, it was an okay story. Continuing on to Pierce's Brown Red Rising series, Iron Gold. So this is set 10 years later into the future of that same world. Daryl has like new enemies. There's a war going on, and then we follow these new characters. And this is like the first time we get to step into different people's mind. Like there's three main like points of view that you get versus the other one. It was all from Daryl's perspective pretty much, but now you get I think two other ones plus Daryl. So yeah, just continuing the story, and again, great series. And here, final book that I read, I finished it right before the end of the year, but this thing is fucking thick, like goddamn. But Dark Age by Pierce Brown again. Really towards the end of the year, just I read more fiction. I think overall the whole year I read more fiction, but again, just continuing the story from where we left off previously, and a lot more characters died, just like throughout this whole series. But yeah, just continuing on. Quick little review of books I started but just didn't finish for whatever reason. Slaughterhouse 5 was recommended. It's kind of an odd story, and literally like I was so close to finishing it, but just for some reason I didn't feel motivated enough to read it. I was like, yeah, I don't need to know the conclusion. So yeah, and then this really, Gulag Archipelago. I always forget if it's Archipelago. I think so. Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This is a thick book and really dense, and I don't know, it's kind of confusing because I guess I don't have a good enough understanding of like World War II, like geography and the whole revolution that happened beforehand, like in the Soviet Union and Russia, and before it became the Soviet Union, and like what the life was like. But the Dichotomy of Leadership. I know I listened to the audiobook of Jocko's first book, which was Extreme Ownership, and this just kind of continues on that main theme, and then kind of gives more tidbits of like there's like a war story or training story, and a couple of chess books that I started again but did not finish. The closest one that I got to finishing is this one, How to Win at Chess by Levi Rosman. Yeah, kind of changed my opening, I guess. So if you know anything about chess, I started playing the Vienna a lot more. So yeah, and then the Dutch, it gave a decent system to play against d4. And yeah, this year I bought his Chessly yearly subscription, so that's going well. So yeah, if you want to get like a good understanding of just like the basics of chess, some basic opening lunge, some basic like end game, like knowledge and just like strategy. So definitely a good book to pick up and get started with. And it's got these links where you can do like drills and stuff like on Chessly that you don't have to pay for. They're just included with your purchase of the book. But I like this because it's a hardcover. I like these other ones that are soft cover, but this one I just mainly bought because the cover's cool. It's got Magnus on it, and then this one, The 7 Deadly Sins of Chess. This is more about over the board, like your psyche and kind of like what errors can occur and what happens. And yeah, it's really, really, I don't know, kind of like, I think I'm just not at the level where this is very applicable, I guess, and don't play that much over the board tournaments. Like, I think I play like 3 or 4 total per year. So yeah, but maybe someday I'll revisit it. I hit my goal of reading 1 book per month. So this year I want to read a lot more, trying to go for double that, 24 books. So yeah, let's see how that goes. But pretty decent start already. Anyone? Dark Matter is a series on what's it called? Apple TV, and really, really a good book, really fast paced. And I remember I started this like last year and back in November, and I read like half of it, and then I set it down because I got distracted by other books, Red Rising and what have you. But really, really fast paced, really good sci-fi book if you're into that. And the main one that I'm currently reading is Leading Quietly. This was gifted to me, so it's the first book that I've been gifted, which is pretty cool. And yeah, just because I always read at work, so then a coworker of mine, kind of subtly mentioned, "Oh, what are you reading? What do you like to read?" And then I said, "Oh, mostly informational, self-help, and yeah." So far, so good. Different approach to leadership, and it's kind of, I don't know, kind of more about how everyone's a leader in a sort of ways, kind of like that. And then here's some other books that I started but have not finished, but plan to finish this year. But Thinking in Bets. Again, this is Peter Attia. Most of my recommendations come from either podcasts or like some social media clip of what have you. A lot of times YouTube clips. And yeah, Thinking in Bets. It's definitely an interesting read. Really informational, but kind of just an introduction of like how thinking in bets can make you like a better decision maker and be more objective versus being emotional and not making the right decision, or what's this thing called? I forget this concept, but it's about looking in the past and resulting is what they call it. Yeah, what she calls it, Annie Duke. About how you can, when you make a decision and it's not working out or it didn't go as you planned, but at the time it was the best decision that you could have made with the information that you had. So you can't look at the results and then criticize the decision you made if your decision was sound at the time, because a lot of factors change. But yeah, definitely revisit that. Open by Andre Agassi. I think this again is a combination of Netflix, Breakpoint, I think is what it's called. Point Break? Oh, Breakpoint? I forget, but it's again Drive to Survive, but for tennis documentary series that followed a bunch of the best tennis stars and what have you, along with what's it called? We Might Be Drunk with Mark Norman and what's his name? Sam Morril. And Sam Morril was talking about this, and he's like, "Oh, it's a great book." Who knows if he actually read it or if he was just listening to the audiobook. I have this bad thing where I'm like so pretentious about reading it physically versus an audiobook, even though retention and what have you is the same in some study. And again, that study, I have no idea what it is. I just saw it in some YouTube videos, so I just assume it's correct, and retention and what have you is the same, but I just don't feel it. Not when you're multitasking, because oftentimes when I'm listening to audiobooks, it's just in one ear, out the other, and I have to rewind. And then we got Pierce Brown again, Lightbringer, the 6th book in the series, and I think there's another book coming out either this year or sometime later. But yeah, just continuing on, something that an author that I really enjoy, so just continuing the series to its conclusion. And yeah, so that's what I'm currently reading. Guys, thanks for watching. Yeah, I don't know. If you're reading anything, comment below. Don't like, don't subscribe. Nothing matters. Truth of the situation. What can you do, babe? Next video, hopefully go more over training and what I've been doing, what I've been concentrating on, and what have you. But yeah, just wanted to do something different. Just we guys should recap because something I'm kind of proud of, kind of, you know, cool that I stuck to a goal and accomplished it and surpassed it even a little bit by reading